I'm aware that many of you have expressed a desire for online counseling, and to that effect, we have a sponsor who will help you and assist you in that respect. So if you will, go beneath the video, you'll find a link to our online counseling sponsor. They have a whole team of counselors that can help you. Practice self-care, get the help that you need. I came upon an interesting statistic recently that said that about 79% of our workforce is in the service industry. Now that includes a broad array of jobs, whether we're talking about people that are in the healthcare industry, whether we're talking about folks in the food preparation business, on the grocery side, on the delivery side, or restaurants, etc. We can be talking about automotive services or accountants or legal representation, amusement parks. All of that would be part of the service industry. And I strongly suspect that a high percentage of you have been employed in one form or another throughout your life in some form of service. Service is part of what holds our economy together and what holds our societies together. Well, let's take that same mindset and bring it into the realm of relationships. Whether we're talking about your immediate family relations or extended family or friendships or the relations you have at work, there's an element of service that's there too. And you want to be the kind of person that says, I want my presence in your life to be uplifting to you. I know you have needs, and I'd like to make sure that we're being attentive to that, just as I would hope you would do the same in reverse. And ideally, we would live in a world where helpfulness and being pleasing and being available to one another would be a good thing. Well, we have these other individuals in our lives, though, whether it's in the workforce or whether it's in the family life or social life, that we call the exploiters, the users, the manipulators, the critics. You have any of those that are in your life? And here you are, you're trying to be somebody that says, well, I want to be service-minded. I want to be helpful. I want to be a pleasing kind of person. And you have other individuals that are thinking, okay, let me see how I can use that to my advantage, and I'll just milk everything I can out of you. And I don't really care what it does to you, if it drains you dry or not, but I'm going to use you until I've used you up, and then I'll go to the next person I can use. And many times when you feel like you're called to be in service, and I, of course, throughout the decades that I was in my counseling office, I would hear people talk about how they needed to service, let's say, a family member, or they wanted to be helpful to their children or helpful to their spouse or other individuals. And over time, they began realizing, well, the more serving I am, the more helpful I am, I'm losing my independence. These people feel like they own me, or I feel like I'm bound by duty and obligation, and the service that they have is more of a requirement. It's a mandate that they feel like they live with. When you're in that service kind of mindset towards the people that you know, sometimes you think, yeah, I'm setting myself up to be manipulators because people are willing to take advantage of my good nature left and right. And often individuals will say, if I am a serving individual, if I try to be pleasing and helpful, I wind up losing myself. So let's recognize that servitude is good. Helpfulness and being pleasing is good as long as it's done in a balanced kind of way. And of course, the balance that we're going to have that's going to help us in that is going to be our sense of assertiveness and our understanding of boundaries. Let's start with two primary notions about the way that we engage with one another. The first notion is I'm going to acknowledge that the person in front of me has needs. And I want to be attentive. I want to be tuned in to the needs of other individuals. And again, whether it's in the workplace or inside my home or elsewhere, I want to be an attentive kind of a person. But then a second thought that we want to factor in is, you know what? Every person is capable of being selfish. And so we're going to need to do something to keep that tendency in check. So let me see if I can just kind of zero in on a few thoughts about how we can manage that sense of helpfulness and being pleasing, while at the same time maintaining an attitude of assertiveness and boundaries in the balance there. First, as we engage with one another, let's acknowledge our interconnectedness. No one is an island. Remember John Donne, the British poet, that said, "No man is an island unto himself." Each of us has the need for other individuals, and as we engage with one another, let's do so with a sense of mindfulness that we are interconnected. My quality of life is going to be impacted by you, just as your quality of life is going to be impacted by me. I want to have a mindfulness of that at all times. Let's also acknowledge a second thought, that being consistently attentive, being consistently helpful toward others is a reward in and of itself. You feel good when you've helped other individuals. You feel like you've lived into a certain sense of meaning and purpose, as long as you have boundaries, as long as you're not being taken advantage of, which takes us to a third thought, and that is we do need to have an understanding of boundaries. Boundaries can be defined in so many different ways. In fact, I have a full course that I'm going to be presenting here in the public in the very near future that talks about the whole notion of boundaries. But boundaries means that every person has to define who they are. You get to define yourself just as I define myself. Boundaries also includes the word assertiveness. You stand up for your convictions. You stand up for your needs when appropriate. You let other individuals know who you are and what they can do to help you, just as you're trying to be helpful to them. So you want to be attentive. You want to recognize that giving and being helpful is a reward, as long as you also know that you're committed to having boundaries. And then let's take it even to another level and say part of your servitude, part of your helpfulness toward other individuals is to let them know when boundaries are being misused. You're not doing anyone any favors by saying, I want to be friendly, I want to be helpful, and then when other individuals start exploiting, manipulating, you say, well, okay, go ahead and take advantage of me. That's not good. You're actually being helpful when you are assertive. And when you say, that doesn't work for me, or I know that's your priority, but it doesn't match where I am. Let's see if we can come up with some other alternatives. Or when someone is being unruly, or when they're being very blustery, you may have to confront them about either changing their opinions or setting consequences or removing yourself. That's part of your giving nature, by saying, I'm committed to healthiness and I'm not going to enter into somebody else's unhealthiness. So we can be both task focused and relationship focused. And then we're going to finally conclude that you're at your most effective when you're able to tend to the other individuals with a balance of tending to yourself. Going back to that notion that says helpfulness is good, but people are capable of being very immature and very selfish. So I'm hoping that you can think in terms of how you might be a benefit to other individuals. And to me, that represents maturity. That means you're out of your me mentality. There's a group of individuals, we refer to them as the narcissists, who it's all about themselves, and they want to be in control. They want to be dominant. They're willing to use other individuals. But that's a very immature way of life. I want you to think back through the years to the people that have been most positively impactful in your life. You have anybody in your mind that would fit into that category? The people who will benefit you, or who have benefited you most, probably had an absence of condescension in the way they treated you. The most helpful people had an absence of egotism. They had a presence of goodwill. They had a presence of civility. And as you look back, you can see those are the kind of people that you admire most. But these individuals who are most effective in the way that they engage with other individuals also show that they have a willingness to work with one another, not for one another. So in other words, there's a sense of egalitarianism that goes along with that. Those who are willing to exploit and use and manipulate, they use ingredients like shame and insults and invalidation and self-promotion only. So let's conclude by saying it's good to be a helpful person. It's good to be pleasing. It's good to be attentive to other individuals as long as it's done inside of balance. You also want to be the kind of person that says, I'm not effective at all when I let other individuals take advantage of my good nature. That being the case, I'm going to be willing to help, and I'm going to be willing to be attentive, but I'm also going to gauge the level of maturity of the person that I'm engaging with, so that if they're going to be inappropriate, I can still take care of myself. That's the balance that we want to look at. Now, I hope videos such as this give you some good food for thought and prompt you to think about who you are and how you engage with other individuals. And as you if you would desire, I'd like for you to subscribe to this channel, because we'll have more videos coming your direction that'll be along the lines of what we're talking about here. It could be that you could use some counseling to have somebody help you unpack some issues relative to all of this. We have a sponsor. Their link is below that would allow you to take advantage of online counseling. There's a whole team of professionals that you would be able to choose from to help you in that regard. In addition, I just mentioned that I have my courses. We have Free to Be, that's been a course that's been around, that's been very well received. And I have a brand new course that's going to be coming out very soon called This Is Me. And it's all about establishing boundaries with the controllers in your life. And we also have my books, When Pleasing You Is Killing Me, and The Anger Trap, and more resources that are below. I want you to be a serving person. I want you to be a helpful person, but I also want you to be somebody that takes care of yourself. And in doing so, you actually become that much more effective toward other individuals. And that's what that's what's required if you're going to be a person that has healthy influence and steadiness, and you can be a promoter of peace.